Hi, so the second part of our yoga for skiers' hips. If you haven't listened to the beginning of the first video, then please go back to that because it explains the difference between the yin and the yang aspect of what we're doing here, which is really important to know. So please go back and listen to that. Otherwise, just move on now onto our next yoga pose to help move down into the hips and get us ready for those ski slopes. Okay, so we're going to go into what seems essentially quite a simple pose called broken toes. Not everybody's favourite, I know, but particularly the men tend to often have quite a tight ankle, and I know our boots hold our ankles, but you need to be very aware of your feet when you're skiing. You need to use your big toe, for instance, the knuckle underneath it. So we're moving to big toe here. Big toe is come onto your balls of your feet. Make sure the little pinky toes are out and not tucked under in a funny way. And it's a balance pose. So again, always great for skiing. So roll up and open up. Bring your hands to heart center if you can, or use your hands on your thighs. You want to have that front body open feeling. You want to find something that's not moving to watch. You will wobble. This is great for your ankles. It's teaching them, all that wobbling is the muscles learning for the balance, which is important when you're skiing. So broken toe, again, as I say, it's not always that we've all got flexibility in our feet. Another option for that one is to bring our knees to the floor and stay up on the broken toe position. That's quite a strong quad opener, so quite a nice one to use after skiing. It also opens up round the front of your knees here. It can be a bit too strong if you try it when your legs are cold, so not always the greatest one in yin, but you can try it like that. In that position you can bring yourself down to the floor, and also if you find that's really too strong for your toes, you can bring your feet down flat onto the floor. This is an ankle opener rather than your toes in the front of your feet. You can do this one as well as the broken toes, and you can walk back so that you're opening out the front of your quads and your hip flexors. As I say, you can do this cold for yin, warm for muscle stretch. So remember which way round it is. It's not always available in yin to everybody. We're not always already that flexible. It's moving towards it. Draw the tummy in this position. If you can, you're going to open your heels slightly, keeping your knees together, and we'll eventually be moving down to the floor. But that's a massive, massive leg opener. Not so much the hips you would think, but actually it's your hip flexors, which are also very important to be supple when you're moving. So that's a few options in broken toe. As I say, not always available, particularly to men. I think it's possibly because women use high heels. You can use something to come between your thighs and your bottom, which will take the weight off your knees and off your toes a bit if you're finding it difficult. So that's one way to lift up. If your knees are really finding it, pad them out. If it's a balance thing that you're not getting, come up onto your heels on the block, or the brick rather. So that takes the weight a little bit off your toes, changes the whole experience. You can use a wall behind you to hold you up if that helps. Play around with that one, but as I say, it's really important to connect to your feet if you are a skier. And remember, you can do cold for yin as a prep for skiing holidays. Okay, so this one's called deer pose. It might not be available to everybody, so have a play with it and see. So we go into the position, first of all, where this is full pose, but I'll give you an option in a second. So the back leg, the thigh is coming straight out from the hip, and there's a 90-degree angle here, and then also in front of the ankles flexed. And then the front leg, thighs coming out in front of us, same thing, 90 degrees here, 90 degrees in front of the ankle. And then you want to wiggle about until you get both hips down on the ground. Now, that might not be available straight away to everybody. So play with it and see. If it's not, bring that front foot in a little bit closer and tuck the foot behind you in a little bit closer. See if then you can sit down onto your sit bones a bit easier. So whichever position you've chosen the legs in, now rotate so that your ribs are facing forwards. And really essentially same as what we did in cross legs earlier on. You want to find that length first of all. Keep both sit bones grounded. And then when you've got the space there between your vertebrae, then you can fold forward again over this front leg. For me, I don't get enough that way. So if you don't feel anything deeply into the tissue, if you're doing this as yin, adjust your legs into the other position and you want to walk forward and lean forward. Again, it's a form of pigeon, really, this one. So same sort of experience if anybody knows what pigeon is. And it should be that you find quite a deep sensation in the hip of the front leg. And again, we hold for a little bit longer in yin, up to 3 minutes or so. Might need to cushion ankles, play around with it until you can actually sit in this position for that length of time. And use your breath. Remember that edge you'll get to, and then keep breathing. And then maybe on an exhale, you find you move a little bit closer to your thigh. Remember to do it both ways. And then another version of that is to rotate your ribs towards the other leg and move forward over it. So different sensation through the hip then. You're moving more into the hip flexor here possibly. It might feel quite cramped and contained. That's quite a nice thing to do with yin as well, because what we do is we compress an area of the joint when we open the other side of it, but then when you open it all up again and go back to neutral, there's a flush of essentially all the circulation flushes through that area of the joint that was compressed, a bit like a dam, and you get new good energy in there. So that compression feeling, don't ever feel pain. It can be discomfort in yin, but not pain. Draw back and draw out of it if there is pain. Okay, and if you're going to use this as a cool down after when your muscles are warm, you can always just use it as a rotation thing. So a kind of windscreen wiper thing rolling through both sides of the hips. And remember, you can use it to stretch off muscles afterwards by rounding down and softening into that position. Your muscles will allow you to do that if they're warm enough. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, we're going to do 2 for the price of 1 here. Have a couple of yoga bricks or something similar. You can use cans of beans or whatever happens. The idea is just to take the ground up to your arms, to extend the length of your arms here. Put them at the front. Now, you'll all be quite used to probably low lunges, so the idea is we're going to come into low lunge by coming into all fours, rocking back and bringing that front foot forward. So I've gone right foot forward. Low lunge can be any position here with your back leg. If you're finding it really tough on the knee, press into that back foot. If you're finding it too strong in your hip flexor here, bring the hip over the knee in the back leg. So you've got more of that deer shape again going on that we've just done. Otherwise, wherever you are, bring your bricks in and use them on the tall side first of all. So press into the front foot, but wiggle the front toes. They're not involved. The knee should be over the ankle. We don't roll the knee ahead of the ankle if we can help it, because it's not really meant to do that. Strong knees are of course important, but also supple knees for yoga, for skiing rather. Okay, so we're thinking long front body. Find that connection from the back knee right through to your crown. Push gently into the bricks and lift yourself up a little bit higher, but draw your shoulders back and down the back of your body, so that your heart then feels like it's moving forward between your arms. See if you can press into the back foot and lift off that back knee a little bit if it's causing a little bit of an issue. You can always pad the back knee as well. I broke my knee and I used to have to pad it all the time. But this just shows what yoga can do once you've had a ski injury. So you're thinking about yin here, so we're lengthening, we're lifting the tummy off the thigh. We're lifting our heart forward, we're drawing our shoulders down, and we're sinking our back hip slightly to feel that back hip flexor open. A lot going on, doesn't look like it, but there is a lot going on. Hold and breathe. Close the eyes, breathe deeply. Use the exhale just to soften a little bit into it. And then press gently into the arms, press into the front foot, lift yourself up. Bring the bricks back slightly then, and we're going to roll into half splits. So again, you can keep the hip over the back knee here, and you can just roll onto the heel of the front leg, and we're opening up the back of that leg, but we're not forcing through the back of the knee. So you want to try and keep a sort of soft knee there. Draw that front hip rather, forward, backwards. So you'll see I've extended it. I need to draw my right hip back in line with my left hip. And then find that front long body again. So you can sit down here as well if you find it more easeful. And do it this way. And then you're folding over that front hip hinge with a long front body. And releasing again, heart towards shin. So rather similar to what we did earlier in the half Baddha Konasana situation at the beginning with the foot inside the thigh. So press into the bricks again, find that long body, tuck the chin, long back and neck, squeeze the shoulder blades together, settle into that right hip a little bit more. Feel that big pull on the hamstring. If that's too strong doing it as a yin pose, roll the foot down and bend the knee a little bit more. Because otherwise you're going to ping something in the back of your leg. So do take care in yin because your muscles won't be ready to stretch. If you're doing this as an après-ski, I can think of better things to do, but stretching out the muscles by flexing that front foot, maybe curling up and moving forward then and letting the back of the body relax. Bending the elbows, drawing the tummy up still to support everything. And then come back up. If you want to use that as a warm-up without too much forcing through the hip flexors, you can just move backwards and forwards between the two. If you want to release after you've stretched out, you can just do this as well. Quite a nice one in the morning if you are warming up before skiing. And then obviously remember to do the other side. Okay, one more in a second. Okay, again we can do two for the price of one in this position. Have a brick or something handy if you've got one. Otherwise a rolled up pillow rolled into a throw can sometimes work, but you want something to put under your back here. We're going to go into supported bridge, which again some of you may know already. So we bring the feet in so the heels are as close to the bottom as possible. The thing to try and remember here is to tip your pelvis, so pelvic tilt we call it, so you're drawing your tummy, drawing your pelvic bones and your pubic bone up towards your tummy. And if you just roll through the lower back a few times to feel that sensation. So then you're going to press into the feet and roll up into bridge, so you're coming up onto your shoulders. You look up the way all the time here. Hold where you're comfortable enough to slide that brick under. It can be on the lower side or it can be on the second side, never on the top side, never the tall side. Lots of yogis got a problem with that one. Okay, so here we're thinking about opening up the hip flexors, the front of the hips here. So we'll let the brick support us. We tuck our shoulders under and open the front of our shoulders. Doing a little bit here to help towards any shoulder injury while stretching out. This again can be done as a yin pose though. If you're trying to stretch out afterwards, something that might be available to you and might be quite nice for the hip flexors is to take one foot away at a time and stretch out across the front of your hip flexors. That might be quite strong. It also works into the tummy muscles and the lower abdominal muscles. So give that one a go. If it's not for you, you'll straight away know it with one leg. You can also bring your feet in and bring them into bound angle. So bring the feet together and let the hips fall out. So moves into a different area of your hip then that you're working on. So it's more inner hip that's opening up there, and also your inner thighs. So obviously if you're doing it after ski, inside of the thighs here, nice big stretch out for them. If it's not comfortable in bridge, you can take yourself back down to the floor and come into Baddha Konasana that way. So that's feet together, soles of the feet together. And this is another option rather than doing it in bridge. If it's too strong in the inner thighs to start with, and in the inner hips, particularly if you're doing this cold as a yin pose, bring a brick in if you need it and pop it under your thigh. Eventually you'll find you can take the brick away a little bit further at a time and just open out your inner thighs and inside of that hip joint. So the hips move in all different directions. What we're trying to do here is give a bit of extension to all areas so that you can move easily through your hips. Initially you probably find it tightens them because they'll say, oh, what are you doing here? I haven't done this before. But it will work, and it will take a little bit of time, but it will work. So then we'll bring our knees together. We'll take you into one more pose here. So if you bring your feet to the floor again as if you were going to do bridge, keep a brick or something near you to support you here. Lift your right knee bent and then cross your legs. Really squeeze the inner thighs together as you do that. So cross the legs over and then pop your hands to the floor, press into the floor and gently move your hips. Just your hips are moving here. Move your hips about 1 inch or 2 over to the right hand side. That's to the side that the top leg is basically. And then we're going to just roll over carefully through the foot that's on the floor, roll onto the outside edge of it, hold onto the tummy muscles as you roll over and move towards the floor, on my case the left hand side. Your top shoulder, your opposite shoulder, may decide to come with you. Let it come with you to start with. Bring in a brick if you need it. If you feel you need a bit of support, you can't quite get there, then bring in a brick to support your legs. If you're able to fold over and you can still feel the weight of your underleg, the back of that, the knee should be on the back of the shin and just holding down the top leg a little bit. You can take your hand and pop it on your thigh there if you want to weight it a little bit more. So this is all about the outside of the hip here on the top hip, but you need to try and release that bottom hip because it'll be holding on, particularly if your muscles are warm. And then your top shoulder may have come off the floor, so just to open that collarbone, tuck that shoulder under by rolling open your palm and turning it up towards the ceiling, and then if you can, turn your head gently to look towards the hand that you've opened up. So big neck opener there on one side, and also lets that shoulder just drop hopefully down. So you deepen into the twist here. So lots going on in this, but what we're thinking about is the hip area. If you do this as a yin pose and then warm up doing some form of exercise and then do it as a cool down pose, as a yang pose, you'll notice the difference. And that's one way of experimenting with the difference between cold muscles and warm muscles and the depth of the experience through your hips. So to come out of this, rotate your head first of all to look upwards, draw in your tummy muscles and roll back up to centre. Use your hands and foot to support you and lift yourself back to neutral, and then uncross the legs. And then obviously do it on the other side. So that's just a few hip sort of warm up and cool downs and yins and yangs, just to get you ready for skiing. It's a while since most of us have been in the slopes, so hopefully it will bring health to your hips as well as a little bit more suppleness, and you'll get in that ski slope and you'll shoot down the hill and feel completely at ease. Good luck. Namaste.